All right, excuse me. Sorry, y'all. How y'all doing, man? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells coming at you. And as you can see today, we're gonna I can't talk. We're gonna spend a little time today talking about the new SWAC scheduling model that was basically proposed, gonna come true. Been discussed the last couple of days. Wanted to wait a little bit before I talked about it. I wanted to look up a couple of things before I talked about it. I wanted to get my thoughts together first. So we're gonna talk about that for a little bit, and then we're gonna be up out. Um, SWAC tournament starts tomorrow, so y'all make sure y'all keep it locked on ESPN Plus for all the action. If you can go to the games, please, 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 if you can go, please go. Help the attendance greatly. Also, I have my SWAC tournament preview. Video is up from yesterday from Sunday, so make sure you catch that. Also, my SWAC tournament preview on the men's side is up on bustingbrackets.com, so you can check that out. Link is on my socials: Facebook Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, and comment your thoughts on this new scheduling model. So let's go ahead and jump directly into it. In case you haven't heard, the SWAC is changing, proposing, and I think it's basically a done deal. Hasn't I don't think it's officially been approved yet, but it's supposedly a done deal. They're changing the way that they're scheduling the conference games. For if you don't know, right now the men and women play double headers on Saturday and Monday throughout the conference season. Each team is assigned a travel partner, somebody that's basically close to you or in your state. Um, just for um, just for clarity, Texas Southern's travel partner is Prairie View, Southern's travel partner is Grambling, Alcorn's travel partner is Jackson State, Valley is paired up with Pine Bluff, Alabama A&M and Alabama State are paired up, and then FAMU and Bethune-Cookman are paired up. So basically, the way your schedule goes, like I said, I'm just explaining this if you don't know. Let's say you're Valley. On Saturday, you will play Jackson State. On Monday, you will play Alcorn, men and women. Saturday against Jackson State, Monday against Alcorn. The only game that you would not have a double hitter would be your two games against your travel partner. So you have one Saturday game against Pine Bluff, and then another Saturday game against Pine Bluff on the road. You will have opponents that you only play once, so you wouldn't go to them. You would go to them once, and they wouldn't come to you, or they would come to you once, and you don't go to them. So that's the way it works now. It's proposed now to be a Thursday, Saturday, Monday model. Saturday would be the same doubleheader against the same opponent. And then the Thursday game for women would be the same opponent that you played on Monday for men. So if using my Valley example again, if you played Jackson State on Saturday, both teams would play Jackson State on Saturday. The women would play Alcorn on Thursday, and the men would play Alcorn on Monday. So you're giving the women one game each week of their own, where they can play like a 7:30 game. Which in terms of the way women's basketball is growing, I think that's great. I think it's great that you give them a game where they're not kind of the opening act for the men, because let's keep it a buck. A lot of people don't go to women's games when in that situation, because they will just go either at the end of the women's game to be there in time for the men's game, or show up just in time for the men's game. You do have a lot of people who do go to women's games and stay for both. Or if your men's team is trash, some people come for the women's game and leave for the men's game. So there are people who will turn out for this. I don't think that is gonna be a huge difference. Because when you look at the attendance numbers from this past season, looking only at conference games, you had 5 of 12 teams in on the women's side that average below 1,000 people per game in conference play. So that's a number that it may go up, because they only playing the one game and they're playing at 7:30 on a Thursday instead of 5:30 on a Monday, when people aren't really off of work yet, or you're trying to make your way across town in traffic. I get that. I'm fine with that from that aspect. Um, my issue comes with, why not give the women, let's say, give them um Thursday and Sunday, and give the men Saturday and Monday, or whatever day you want to do it, Tuesday and Thursday, whatever. Give the women 2 days, only women's games, and then give the men 2 days of only men's games, and do it like I looked at a couple. I looked at a couple conferences, the America East and the ASUN. I looked at those two, and they did a model where you play the same opponent in men and women, but one game is at home and one is on the road. So that way you have a home game on let's say on Thursday, and then the men have a home game like the following week against that opponent. But I think giving the women 2 games a week to themselves is better than splitting it up, because number one, travel is an issue. How do you work out that Thursday Monday game? Because if you're Valley and you got to go to Florida, would you're gonna send your men to Daytona early for a game that won't be to you will send them, I guess, to Tallahassee first, and then send them to Daytona. And then the women would go to Daytona first and then come back to Tallahassee to play FAMU. I guess that's how it would work. You also have to look into the fact that there's not a lot of staff for these teams. So you're spreading your training staff thin. Travel, I mean, just the way teams spend money on travel. That's two trips to the same place at different times. Not like I said, you have 2 different trips to Daytona, one on Thursday, one on Monday, or whatever the case may be. That's where my biggest issue comes at. How you're gonna manage this monetarily, because that's the main reason why you do travel partners, is to limit the travel. That's the main reason why you do double headers on the same, in the same weekend, to limit the travel. Your teams can go to one place and then go to the next and then go home, so it's gonna be some ironing out that has to be done. And I'm not really a fan of this, because I think that unless you give the women 2 games a week for themselves, you're kind of hurting everything, because now you're counting on people to come to a Thursday game when they haven't really been turning out for women's basketball in the SWAC. Women's basketball in major college women's basketball. Let's separate this. Major college women's basketball is in a boom right now. Obviously, there's been so much discourse about the women's game is way better than the men's game. Men's basketball is dying. I don't subscribe to that. I think it's different. It's just different. Men's basketball in the major college level has been dictated by one and dones. Women's basketball in the major college level is not. So you will have more opportunity for players to grow and develop fan bases. And you also have record-setting players right now in women's basketball. You don't have that in the men's basketball, because you don't have a lot of players that stay a long time. I mean, last year, I think it was, a guy from Detroit Mercy could have broken Pistol Pete's scoring record, but he didn't. Came up like 1 game short. But that's a guy plays for a low major team that don't nobody know nothing about. So the players are there, but a lot of the record-setting players play in low major basketball on the men's side, so they don't get that exposure anyway. I would only be fine with this is if Thursday was a TV night for women's basketball. Now, if you're giving me more basketball on TV, which hopefully means more money, then I'm fine with that, But to just put games on Thursday and put the men on Monday, like I said, to me, it hurts for travel. You're really counting on fan bases that don't turn out for women's basketball to turn out for women's basketball. Like I said, a lot these numbers are based on games that have a men's game following them. Bethune-Cookman averages 580 people per home game in women's basketball in SWAC play. Now, their gym is not that big, so I'm not going to really hold that too much against them, because the men didn't average, but their men average 876 per game. So their gym is not that big. But when you look at somewhere like Prairie View, they averaging under 600 people in a women's game, and the men are averaging like 1,200. So, that's a 600 person difference. Is it beneficial to play a evening game in front of a gym that's not gonna be anywhere near full. Maybe over time this can grow some legs, but right now I don't really feel it because I just think, I don't. I just think that for the reasons that I've already addressed, the travel, the money, you know, the interest, because that other than like I said, other than a few teams in the SWAC that draw interest in women's basketball, there's not a lot there outside of your core people. You're gonna have to really work to get people to turn out for this. It kind of throws off people who are used to, going to a game and getting to see two games for the price of one. That's why I love it. I get to see two college basketball games in the same night for $15. So you can't, you really can't beat that. For our level, you really can't beat that. Now, if you can find a way to make this work and it doesn't really impact anybody, then have a blast. But for me personally, I rather stick to my Saturday and Monday games. I just like it that way. But tradition is always meant to be bucked. So if it's a beneficial change that can benefit everybody, um, that's cool. I don't hate it. I thought I would hate it when I heard about it, but I don't like it. I don't like it, but I don't hate it. Um, I need to see and hear some more about it to really get a better idea. Personally, my thing would be separating the women and men tournament, giving the women Wednesday, giving the men Thursday for first round games, and then you can play semifinals on the same day. You know, that would be better for me. And giving the top two teams buys, I think altering the SWAC tournament is more important than your um altering your regular season schedule, because with the NIT taking away the automatic bid for one seeds in conference play, now you need your one seed to make it without getting stumbled against a 8 seed. You need to protect your top seed to get them into the tournament because they're probably your best bet at winning a game there. Um, that's my biggest thing more than playing games on Thursday and Saturday and Monday. So I'm not 100% against it, but I don't like it. Like I said, when you look at the numbers, SWAC basketball attendance is not great. Um, Only 8 out of 24 teams, men and women combined, average over 1,000 people. So that's more than half the league that just doesn't really draw. I mean, over 2,000 people. That's just a low. That there's just not a lot of people turning out for SWAC basketball. You have six out of 12 teams that average over 2,000 people in men's basketball, and you only got 2 out of 12 that average over 2,000 people in women's basketball. So, how many of those people on the women's number are strictly there for women's games? That that can't really be determined. And that's part of what hurts these numbers. Are these people showing up to the women's game just because the men's game is following, which I think is not fair to the women's basketball teams, because there's a lot of great basketball being played in women's basketball. Sometimes I feel like it might be better than the men's game at times. I know a lot of people, like I said, the narrative now is that women's basketball is much better than men's basketball. Um, I think IQ wise, sometimes I feel like women's basketball in the SWAC is better than men's basketball. I do think that you know just systems wise, I think more teams do more and they run more offenses. SWAC men's basketball sometimes is just more about being athletically inclined and being able to knock down 30% of your threes. So it's a different game. But unless you market women's basketball, and this goes for the league and the team and the schools themselves, unless you market it better, this is not going to get off the ground. Um, I expect to see the league push women's basketball hard if they want to make this happen, because I don't think you don't showcase these players and coaches, because there are great women's basketball coaches in the league. Coach Simmons at Grambling, Coach Thornton at Pine Bluff, of course, Coach Reed at Jackson State. These are coaches that need to be showcased. Players need to be showcased. Don't don't just shove them over to Thursday with no plan. That's my biggest fear because that's SWAC line of thinking, just to do something to do it. Um, you kind of spreading thin. Your media teams, you're spreading thin. Your officials and travel and all this stuff. So if they roll out a good explanation with this, then I'm with it. But knowing the SWAC, like I know the SWAC, they're not gonna roll out anything important to explain and clarify. So you're gonna just kind of have to make the conclusions the way you want and the way you can. Um, so that's basically why I don't like this. Um, in terms of women's basketball and the way it's growing, the more games they can get on their own, the more that product can be pushed as its own thing is great. Maybe once this gets to a point, you can separate the men and women's tournaments all together. Play the women's tournament in one place, play the men's tournament in one place. It can be done if this is successful. Hopefully, this is the start to pushing women's basketball as its own entity. If that's the case, then I'm with it. If it ain't, and it's just to put games on Thursday because you just want to put games on Thursday, I ain't with it at all, and I never will be. So with that being said, man, I like it. I don't like it, but I understand it. If the way they're doing it is the way I hope they are. They just doing it the SWAC way, just to do it, then of course, like I said, I'm not with it. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells, signing out, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the rebound. Don't forget, I will be back tomorrow to recap the men's action from the tournament. I'm still debating if I'm gonna do it after each session or if I'm gonna do one show at the end of the night. But keep it locked on my socials, and you'll find out which way I do it. So keep it locked there, keep it locked here, just keep it locked all around, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.